What's going on, everybody? And welcome to episode 99 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Kyle Roscoe, and what a fun show we have for you guys coming up tonight as we cover the return of Churchill Downs and everything involved with Iroquois Stakes Day this Saturday, September 14th, which, if you guys have not been following, is a pretty special date out here in the Roscoe encampment, as the person that's currently living with me, not at home right now, but currently living with me, will also become part of the Roscoe family. So very excited for that. Of course, that means we'll have to get all our bets in beforehand. Shout out Matt, Howard, and Noah, Charlie, and everyone else that's going to be at the wedding on Saturday, guys. It'll be a whole ton of fun, I'm sure. And hopefully, like I said, you guys will all have a good time if you guys are coming. But like I said, we have a great show for you guys tonight. We're covering Churchill. There's 3 graded stakes, 5 total stakes on the card. We're going to cover 4 of them in depth. One of them is outside of Late Pick 5, but we will touch on it very quickly for you guys and give you our top picks in the Open Mind Stakes, which again is outside of the Late Pick 5 that we're covering for you guys tonight. As you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now, the only thing that's changed from the live shows this week, of course, is that Picks and Ponies on Thursday has been moved up to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hopefully not combat with you guys watching Thursday night football. As with that season starting up, they will start early throughout the entire fall through winter to again stay out of the way of football. So hopefully you guys can tune in tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, while you guys are looking at your YouTube, please go down below the video player here and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. As the very astute Steven Vanderberg points out, please smash that like button. We would greatly appreciate it, because not only does it show us that you guys are enjoying the content, but it also pushes this video and other videos here on the HHH Racing Podcast Network out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel. And for that, of course, we thank you guys as we keep going on. You guys know every single episode here posted to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel is also available in audio form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Please, if you're wanting to listen through audio, but maybe you're on your way to work or you're at the gym or something like that, you can listen in audio form. And those 3 platforms, again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. I want to give a quick shout out and thank you guys to all who subscribed to the Saratoga and Del Mar only power picks this summer. Hopefully you guys cashed out a couple. Noah had some really good scores. Howard, Pete, Paul, and the rest of the myself, Charlie, Patrick, all of us had some good Saratoga power pick scores throughout the meet. So hopefully you guys were able to cash during the summer along with us. And if you did, again, send out, if you guys cashed on Twitter, send it out to us. Of course, we would love to interact with you guys. And again, greatly appreciate those that subscribed to the power picks. But fear not, as even though Saratoga and Del Mar power picks might be something for Keeneland in the works, by the way, the little teaser there for you guys, but the normal power picks are always available at patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Only $4 a weekend, $15.99 a month is how Patreon bills it. And every single Saturday, you'll get 2 tracks, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday of horse racing. We got you covered here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Link is in the description, but also, again, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. And if you want to see previous editions of those power picks or just want to learn more about the podcast, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com for that. But again, guys, we'll keep it moving along here. Again, please go like the video. Please subscribe. It really helps us out. And again, shows us that you guys are enjoying the content. I will bring on our co-hosts. I'll go quickly through the chat to see who's here. If you guys are here on YouTube or on X, as we have a lot of X viewers come in recently, so thank you guys for that. Please comment on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. You'll see the chat box right at the bottom. There's a text chat. Of course, please be respectful, but please type in there. We read every single chat that comes through in the chat box. And again, greatly appreciate it. But I'll bring on my co-host right now, West Coast bias himself, Noah Maher, and for tonight, Mr. South Beach is joining us, Charlie Freeman. Boys, what's going on?
What's up?
I can't believe I'm still Mr. South Beach even when I returned to Ohio. I thought that was just before I
Did you
get back to
follow? They
college.
follow you. Noah's West Coast covering, of course, West Coast.
That's fair.
Charlie's
That's fair.
Gulf Streams home, dude. We got everything covered nowadays.
Yeah, who doesn't love some torpedo racing, man? You got to represent Gulfstream.
Hey, man, that's the beauty of the podcast is that our main tracks are all around the country. So sometimes when we go to, we go to West Coast or we go down in Florida in the winter, we got some speciality coverage coming for you guys. Of course, Patrick with New York, and I like to consider myself a Kentucky guy at this point with Chicago racing gone, which means I should hopefully have a good day come Saturday. But Katie, of course, was here first, 6:36 p.m. in case you were wondering, for a 7 o'clock show. Katie, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. That is not their record either. They've been there an hour and a half before at some point. So, Katie, always appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Stephen Vanderbrook, as I pointed out, good evening all. Thanks, Stephen, for joining the show. The very astute Matt Miller is here. Thanks so much, Matt, for joining the show. Greatly appreciated. The boss, of course, is here. Terry Frank is here. He says best wishes. Thanks, Terry, so much. Greatly appreciate it. Ryan Anderson. Ryan, thanks so much. Good evening, my man. And he says congrats on getting married this weekend. Greatly appreciate it. Our Stephanie says Jonathan's Way Saturday at Churchill Downs. That is correct, Art Stephanie, and good luck to them. Hopefully we can get a good one. But thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. But guys, we will. Oh, and Stephen Vanderbrook said, "Congrats, Kyle. I think you should start drinking tonight. Keep it going through Saturday." Funny you bring that up, Stephen Vanderbrook, as we crack open a beer and we say cheers to everyone out there, and hopefully cheers to a very good Saturday at Churchill, guys. We'll go right into it. And like I said, we're going to cover race number 5. Again, not in too much detail. We're not going to show the PPs, but for once on this show in the last few weeks, we have morning lines and we have numbers in the DRF, so everyone can follow along the best. But it is a field of 6 for the Open Mind Stakes. It's race number 5, again, outside of the late pick 5. I'm just going to go around the table here. Charlie, I'll start with you because I think I talked to Noah. I think you're the one that's different out of all of us. I'll show the screen right now and I'll show Equibase. The morning line favorite of the Open Mind Stakes is the number 2, Zeitlos, at 8-5 for Christian Torres and Asmussen. Second choice is number 3, Positano Sunset for Leparoux and Ian Wilkes. Third choice is number 6, Unsung Melody, Ricardo Santana, John Ortiz. Charlie, where'd you end up here real quick?
Yeah, I know from what you and Noah know about me, you'd assume I went with Run for the Hills, but I actually did not. I ended up landing on the favorite. On the PPs that we originally got sent, it didn't have the lines. So I will say 8-5 is definitely a little shorter than I would have liked to see. But Zeitlos is one where it's funny. When you see a horse has 6 wins in 4 seconds and 14 starts, you would think that, numbers wouldn't be a problem. But in the past, I would argue Zeitlos has had some weaker figures. But these last 2 races really, sort of have been her best efforts and have turned it around. I thought she was really impressive last time out. Had a ton of ground to make up in a sprint and nearly got there. Obviously, that was on the turf, but 2 back, her buyer top was on the dirt. Again, closing. I think the distance won't be a problem for her. I think she can honestly work a pretty forward trip. And the only other one who really concerns me speed-wise is Run for the Hills. But I just think this is going to be too long for that horse. I know Backyard Money might be some cheap speed, but I think this works out really nicely trip-wise for Zeitlos. But again, I don't love 8-5.
I actually saw it completely different, Noah, and I'm with you. I think there's like no speed in this race at all. I think 4 Happy Am I is the one to get the lead, but Noah, I know you and I think are together in this spot. Number 6, Unsung Melody, is a horse that ran her best races by far the last 2 out, both showing a different side of her, showing that she can rate. If she can sit off a horse like the 4, I think 3-1 is very fair on this type of horse in a 6-horse field.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I don't have really too much to say. She's just really good right now, and I think she's going to get a really good trip. It is kind of interesting because she tried to run on the turf last time, and you would have thought maybe they just did that thinking that it was going to get rained off. But they actually trained her on the turf, which was kind of funny. So maybe that was just kind of a condition thing, maybe to get her a race down at Saratoga. But this is just what she likes to do. She's really good right now. I definitely wouldn't. I would definitely use Zeitlos. I think Positano Sunset might actually be the play against in the race for me, at least, just because I think she needs all of 7. And if those 2 get the jump, I don't know if she can run them down.
Yeah, and obviously Positano Sunset ran a really good one at Keeneland, although that was a year and a half ago at this point, running that 6.5. And I don't know if she's necessarily as good, even though the numbers would suggest otherwise. I don't know if she's as good as she used to be, at least from a tactics speed standpoint. So I'm going to go with the number 6, Unsung Melody. So is Noah. Charlie's going to go with the number 2, Zeitlos, on top. And again, I agree. Zeitlos probably a use in case the pace does not show like it does on paper. But like again, I think third choice on Unsung Melody is pretty decent value on that horse. But guys, we'll go right into it. Race number 7 is the start of the late pick 5, and it's the Locust Grove Stakes, which is a grade 2 going 400, going a mile and a 16th for $400,000. And in the words of Paul Halloran, this Churchill Downs meet is where the dirt meets the dirt, ladies and gentlemen. It is all dirt, no turf at this Churchill meet, but I had to give Paul a shout out for that one because that one was really good in the group chat earlier in the week. But a field of 8, and a pretty good field of 8, honestly, in this one for older fillies and mares. As I show the morning lines here, the morning line favorite is number 7, Shotgun Hottie, for Jose Ortiz and Cherie DeVoe, top of the fan club. Number 2 is your second choice, Free Like a Girl, for Saez and Pommier at 7-2. And your third choice is the number 3, Taxed, for Brian Hernandez and Randy Morse. As I switch over to our picks right now, and not surprising, guys, we're not trying to get too cute in this race. We're all going with the number 7, Shotgun Hottie. I think the only concern for me, and I don't know about you guys, would be a pace scenario where she might just have a little too much to do late. No, I'll go to you first in this one, but look, she's been very, very good as of late. And if she can continue to put it together like she has, at least number-wise, but especially back to that DuPont at Pimlico, she might just be too classy for this field.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. She's definitely the class of the field. Regardless of what the pace is, I think she's going to get a lot better ride than she did last time in the Chuvy because she drew the rail and somehow Paco got her about 5 wide going around the far turn, which was just something that he typically does. But you see Raging Sea came back and ran down Idiomatic last time, which was very impressive, and then beat the Resolute Legend, Misty Vale. So, I just think she's pretty logical. Obviously, you don't want to start off a sequence like this with a 2-1, but you might get somewhere 8-5, and you know she likes it here at Churchill. So just a logical play.
Yeah, and I agree, Charlie. Obviously, I'll go to you. Anything you want to add? Maybe these 87s might be a little too light for some of these other ones that we'll go through, but low 90s. She's definitely a mid 90s horse, or can be on her day. Like I said, might just be too good here.
Yeah, I think also she's just been running against monsters, though. If they were in this field, we always talk about that, when we're looking at a horse's form and how it can kind of get dirtied up from running against tougher, or we say, well, if that horse was in this field, what would it be like? Raging Sea in this, you know what I mean? So for me, I think Shotgun Hottie, personally, visually, for me, has not had that big of a drop off. I think it's more so just how incredibly impressive that Pimlico effort was. I understand she was less than even money, but I still think, as I remember, I think we might have covered that race. I don't think any of us expected her to win by 6. I think we just all agreed she would likely win in that spot. I think I know you're the leader of the Cherie DeVoe club. I think they've got her in a much more reasonable spot now. And I can't lie, a huge thing I keyed it on, for me personally, is a massive jockey upgrade. I know Noah got to already have his, moment of ripping on Paco, so I won't do any more. But for me, most are an upgrade. But if you're getting one of the Ortiz brothers especially, I trust that he'll have him a good spot. I like her on the outside. I trust that, if he needs to save ground, and you're right, maybe there's not enough pace, but at the very least, maybe saves ground on the rail. And if there is, I think he'll be able to angle out without being too wide and go by this field.
Go for it. No, go for it. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I was just briefly going to touch on the 2 because I know you and Noah are on the 4, who I don't have anywhere. I agree with you. I think the pace is a slight concern, but I have a feeling that Free Like a Girl and Loved are going to be the 2 that are sort of, dueling it out on the lead. What I just like from Free Like a Girl is I just thought that the effort last time out was obviously very solid. But, you can look at some of her efforts earlier at Oaklawn Park. That effort, to me, at least visually, was pretty impressive. I know she hasn't quite, gotten the job done until recently in what's a weaker field than this one. But, and I know she lost to Shotgun Hottie, but I just think Luis Saez, we know, is one of the most aggressive and best jockeys you can have, especially for a horse on the lead. And this is one that I feel like it would be tough not to include. And I know she has a ton of starts, but I mean, you talk about consistency, 18 wins, 11 seconds, 6 thirds, and 41 starts. I just feel like she always runs her race.
Yeah, and Katie completely agrees with you. 7-2-3 in this spot. I mean, I have her third. I completely agree. I just like her from a pace standpoint. She's basically going to be, but I think she's going to be behind Loved, but in front of Shotgun Hottie, and she could be one that maybe gets a good kick and gets a good trip coming for home, but might just not be as good as a horse like Shotgun Hottie. So feel like a girl I definitely think is interesting, at least underneath wise. Noah, going to Loved, you and I both have her in second. Last time I loved her, no pun intended, actually. One, did not think she'd be 6-5, 1-1 that day. I was there that day. That was Indiana Derby day. I was dumbfounded by the price and dumbfounded by the trip. I thought she was lone speed, which is probably why she was bet so heavy. And then Florent Giroux took her completely off the pace and still won for fun while being 3 wide, which is, again, I'll take my shot this time. That's something that Florent Giroux loves to do. Again, no pun intended, but gets Gaffleon back, should be aggressive in this spot. And the only other horse that's going to go out for the lead, I think, is Pigalle, the number 5, right to her outside. If she's going to have the rail going a little bit slower, maybe 24, something like that, I think she could be pretty good here.
That just tells you how good she was that day. I mean, Giroux basically did everything in his power to not let her win that race, and she still wins by 2. I guess you could make the argument maybe she didn't. I mean, she really only beat Hidden Connection.
Yes,
I couldn't name any of those other horses off the top of my head, but I remember she was a major player going into the Double Dog Dare. She was off that long layoff. I mean, this is really only her third start in 13, 14 months. Yeah. So she's pretty lightly raced. You can see she is a little bit of an all or nothing. She's got 4 wins, and then her other 3 efforts, I believe she's run 4th, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I guess with the race last time, you do kind of answer the question of that, whether she does have some versatility. But I think she is probably better on the lead, and I would be surprised if that's not what Tyler does, just because there isn't really a whole lot of speed in the race to begin with.
I agree, and I like the fact that every other time except last time, Gaffleon's rode her, and he's always been aggressive with her. So I think that's always the plan there. I mean, maybe she showed a different side of her last time, so she might be taken back, I guess. Maybe letting Free Like a Girl go, but I don't think she wants the lead either. So I assume Loved to be on the lead. Like I said, I loved her last time. I think she's going to run really well here. Maybe just, again, for a place like second, while the other horse we have, or you have in there, Noah. Last, real quick, anything you want to add with Taxed here?
Yeah, she's just a trier. It seems like she might be a little notch below these two. You saw she was a length off of Shotgun Hottie 2 back, and last time she was a favorite in that Pigalle race, and I didn't get to see the replay, which a lot of us didn't. But she was a little disappointing. She does get back to Churchill, which she's 4 for 5 in the money here, and she's one that you don't necessarily have to worry about the 2 turns with her. It's just a question of whether she wants to show up or whether she doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. That's the only reason I left her out. Plus the pace scenario. I mean, she ran really well in the Fleur de Lis, I think, which is something that, showed a little bit of a new side of her, although she showed it at Churchill, but at 1 turn. So I think she might, if she can put it together, like you said. I mean, she won the Black Eyed Susan with a 90. I mean, that fits in this spot, at least for underneath. It's just a matter of, can she put it together on the day? I agree with you. And she's going to be third choice, something like that. That's someone I'm willing to stay away from. Maybe like horse like Free Like a Girl, maybe who's a little more consistent as of late. I'm going 7-4-2. Noah's going 7-4-3. Charlie's going 7-2-3 in the Locust Grove. Guys, we'll move on to race number 8, which is the Pocahontas. And do you want to talk about an absolute barn burner? It is the Grade 3 Pocahontas Stakes for 2-year-old fillies, going a mile on the Churchill dirt with a field of 14, ladies and gentlemen. I will, real quick, I want to point out a couple of comments in here. Steven Vandenberg does bring up a good point. It does say rain in the forecast. It's about sitting at 50% right now for a couple of days before Saturday. Churchill dries out very well, I will say that. And they don't have it. It's like spotty showers. It's not necessarily like a constant rain for 2 days. So it will be interesting to see what that does come out to be come Saturday. But Steven, thanks so much for joining that. Greatly appreciate it. Keith Borga says, just popped in for a minute. Going to listen tomorrow. Love the show, guys. Charlie made me money at Saratoga. Noah made me some at Del Mar. Thanks, Keith. Shout out to you, my friend. Thanks so much for joining the show and enjoying the show. Greatly appreciate it. And thanks for subscribing to those power picks. Again, obviously you cashed, so congratulations to you. And hopefully we can continue the revenue stream at Keeneland. Mike Saletta says, howdy, y'all. Better late than never. And he says, best wishes, Kyle and Emma. Enjoy your day and lifetime of happiness. Cheers. Cheers to you, my friend. Greatly appreciated. And of course, appreciate the best wishes. Katie says, I hope Emma likes horse racing. Well, if you're coming to the Breeders' Cup in November, she was the first one on board there. So you'll see her there. She's absolutely loves it. She loves when we go to the track. So Katie, she definitely is part of that. So we'll move on to race number 8 again, Pocahontas. I'll bring up the field right now. Again, field of 14, headed by the number 12, Stilettos, the Texas bred for Jose Ortiz and Brett Calhoun. Second choice is just to her outside the 13, Kimchi Cat, Gaffleone, and Tom Amos. Third choice is the number 9, Strong State, Irad Ortiz and Al Stahl Jr., also shared by the number 3, Lacara, Ricardo Santana, and Mark Cassie. And I will bring up the picks for this one. We got to do something together, boys. I don't know what it is. We're all going the same top 2 in a 14 horse field, with second choice being a 12-1 shot. So,
and with the favorite only being 4-1, there's no chalk here.
Yeah, I know. And we're going with the 9-2 shot. So, Charlie, I'll go to you first here. Kimchi Cat came off a really nice race last time at Saratoga, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll show that replay here because a lot of those are coming out, or some of them are coming out with the Icona Mama. It was an off-the-turf race, but very impressive visually.
Yeah, and the favorite in that race, Vigidal, however you say, is a horse that I know Noah and I have been big fans of in the past. And for me in that race, to be honest with you, I actually bet this race, and I'm almost positive. I think I actually bet a straight exact of the 4, Vigidal was the favorite, over the 9, thinking it was sort of a tourist race, but ended up being completely wrong on this day. But I remembered watching this race at the time and immediately thinking the next time this horse runs back, I gotta track her down and see where she goes, because I think we could have a very very talented filly here in the future. And for me, it was just how powerful she was down the stretch, because they weren't going slow by any means. And I know she wasn't the one setting the pace, but she wasn't far behind either. And it didn't really look like Tyler, I know obviously he's riding the horse out. It's not like he's just, handwritten, but he didn't, to me, at least visually, have to ask too much for her to sort of get the hurry up and be like, all right, let's get on with it and just run away from this field. I know, the 13 gate could be, not the easiest gate to navigate, but I don't mind her on the outside. I trust that Tyler can use her natural early speed enough to just get out where she won't be, more than a few horses wide. And then I don't think she needs to be on lead by any means, but I think if she can just stay within a length or two, for me, visually, that effort was more impressive than any other horse in this field. And I don't think we'll get 9-2. I think personally she might even go off as the favorite. But if I get anywhere near those odds, we'll get to best bets later, but I would love that.
I mean, Noah, I'll show the time form now. She likes to be close to the pace, but I love that she showed. I mean, she can rate. That's kind of the biggest thing here. I mean, look at this. I mean, you have 3 horses stacked across the track, all the way back. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, to your point about the 13, Charlie, is that the mile at Churchill Downs, I think, is probably the best position for a 13, considering they have basically 5 furlongs to run to the far turn. So. And I like being outside in the Churchill chute rather than on the inside. I feel like it kind of creates a little bit of a problem towards the inside. But yeah, no, I just like that she can rate. And I think she can probably rate even farther based on, maybe she didn't beat too much in an off the turf race. Although, Vigidal was very highly regarded in that race. And she just continuously steadily improves. I just feel like this could be a really good time for Kimchi Cat to get in a race like this.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Charlie said. He's a very astute man in this race. But just going off of that last effort, she did it very professionally. Tyler never really asked her until they got to the top of the stretch. I think she was I'm pretty sure she was an MTO in that race, which you think she she broke from post 5 at a 7, but I think there were quite a few scratches, so that kind of moved her down. But yeah, did everything impressively. I watched a lot of the Fox coverage, and whatever this horse ran, Tom Amos had a lot of good things to say about her. It looks like she's one that he has high hopes for. It's a good sign that Tyler chooses this one over the Godolphin, the 6, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're looking for someone to get that stalking trip, I think this one might be it. And then if you're looking for a closer, the 6 right here might be the one that people are keen in on.
Yeah, and obviously I can talk about this one. I mean, 67 last time out at Ellis. Sadly, we can't watch the replay, but I mean, she came wide. I mean, she was, in the 5 path around the turn and just absolutely blew the doors off this field. I mean, it wasn't even really she never looked like a loser from, on the turn all the way through the end of the race. And obviously I can show, and there's no one has come back out of this race yet, so we don't really know what she ended up facing in that one. But just again, from a visual standpoint, in a race with so much stacked across the track, speed and probables have started out super well. To here was a very good 7 furlong to 1 turn miler. I think this distance hits this horse right between the eyes. I don't know if we're going to get 6 to 1. I think we'll probably, 6 to 1, 12 to 1. I think we're going to probably get high singles, 7, 8, 9 on this horse. Obviously, Joel Rosario picks up the mount, who I do like coming from, middle of the pack, especially at Churchill. He knows how to do it. 12 to 1. Again, morning line is a little bit insane, but I really like this horse in a race where the pace scenario could just really set up for pretty sure. Charlie, anything you want to add on the 6, and then you can move into the 12, who you have in third?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, again, look, you have a Brendan Walsh horse with Rosario. I know it's not the same as when you see Walsh team up with Gaffleone. And as Noah pointed out, I'm sure people key in on that to some extent, but he's still picking up Joel Rosario, who I know we like to, joke around about, but at the end of the day, he gets the job done a lot more than we like to give him credit for. And no, I agree. I think this one's a complete pace angle. I mean, it showed in the time form when I was looking at it, that's how I got the picture that just about everybody wants to go. And like you said, this was one where on the debut didn't go, wasn't at all, looked like a loser, even though we talk about in these, shorter races, it's not as easy, obviously, to come off the pace, but did just fine and one going away. So I think she'll like the distance, like you said, and we'll be happy to sit off a pretty hot pace. But going into the 12, this is one that, to be honest, last time I was pretty upsetting for me because the horse beat a pretty nice Ravelli horse. I think the name is, I'm blanking on the name right now. Rich City Girl, that's who it was. So I think actually came back to win next time out. And yeah, this was one that I, in a ticket I'd played at Ellis, had Rich City Girl singled. And all of a sudden, all this late money poured in on a horse that, came from Lone Star. You don't really see people get all excited about a horse that wanted a maiden special weight for 33,000 by 16, but clearly people thought it wasn't that, she didn't beat anybody and that she was for real. And I have to give her credit because it was like, as the figure show, it was a pretty hot pace. The two of them sort of just dueled the whole way, and then she just had it off. And for me, it's just one where, look, like vertically on its own, I want to touch this horse. I think she'll get Bettin 4 to 1 is crazy to me. But I have to show enough respect where horizontally I'd have to use her. And again, that effort last time out just kind of sold me that the Lone Star effort wasn't a fluke. I think part of the question will also be if she can get this distance. But at the very least, I think she's one that's fast enough and can hold it long enough to at least finish somewhere in the money. But again, for 4 to 1, I wouldn't want that vertically, but she's one I'd be scared to try to just completely toss in the horizontals.
Yeah, the only reason I tossed her was because of the pace scenario. I just feel like she's going to be the outside of a wall of horses that's going to want the lead, and she's going to have to run huge or get a pace scenario that I just don't see in this race to be able to win. I think underneath in third, I think if she's good enough to hold on in 45 and 2 last time, she could be good enough to hold on here, but that pace scenario just looks so differing on paper. We'll go on to the next race here. We're taking a little bit longer, but Noah has the number 7, Quinn's Promise, in third for him. Same type of scenario. I'm assuming Noah for this horse with the others, maybe one that has shown the ability to rate and has gone a mile already. I think the other thing is the fact that this horse has run on the mud twice. And if it is muddy, this could be one to upgrade if you're a player for like weather type angles. So Quinn's Promise is definitely one that's interesting. And I have the number 9, Strong State for Al Stahl. Ran in the spin away last time, lost by 9 to Immersive Quiet Side. And Sherbini never really, factored in the win, but definitely picked up some pieces late, passing some tired horses. I don't know. The blinkers are going back on, so maybe she's going to go try and be a little bit more forward. I don't necessarily think the distance is the issue. I just think she might have been a little outclassed last time out. This is a very tough race, but I don't see why she can't get at least underneath that. That race at Churchill, the only race at Churchill she's ran, she closed very well on, just lost by 3.5. So strong states definitely want to consider at least underneath in a very, very tough edition of the Pocahontas. I'm going 13-6-9. Noah's going 13-6-7. Charlie's going 13-6-12. Guys, we'll move on to the race number 9. And it's a listed stake, but it's another pretty good listed stake. It's the Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes, going 6 furlongs, where the dirt meets the dirt for 300,000, 3-year-old and up, with a nice match of 2 really good horses. The number 2, Close the Game Sugar, Irad Ortiz for Adam Rice, and Skelly for Ricardo Santana and Steven Asmussen. 9-5 on Close the Game Sugar, 2-1 on Skelly, which I'm going to be honest with you, I could not believe that Skelly was not the favorite, but we'll get there in a second, with the second choice being a very distant 8-1 for the number 6, Hear Me Song. And I'll switch the picks right now. Shocker, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're all going with number 2, Close the Game Sugar, with Skelly in second. Guys, it's at least on paper, it looks like a pretty good 2-horse race here. I think it's going to come down to pace scenarios. Noah, I'll let you go first, and I'll show the Equibase. First off, again, we're all going the same exact picks, first and second. I don't know why this isn't showing the time form, so I got to refresh. But Noah, go into it. What'd you like most about Close the Game Sugar over Skelly?
Yeah, I can't trust Skelly right now. He's very talented, and he could definitely wire this field. But his last couple of starts, he's been breaking really slow, which is a little bit of concern and something we hadn't really seen from him. He seemed a little invincible for a while. But yeah, he's kind of shown that soft side to him. But Close the Game Sugar, beat him on the square, 3 back. Then he came back and ran at 6.5 and kind of proved that wasn't a fluke. Then last time shipped out for the Bing Crosby, shipped out west and didn't win. Shocker. But comes back to Churchill, which he loves. He's got 2 wins in his second. Like you said, Kyle, I see him sitting a pretty good trip. I don't know if Skelly's going to get that easy of a lead, because the 5 for Jacobson is pretty quick. So if there is a little pace pressure, I think that's gonna benefit Close the Game Sugar definitely in the long run.
Yeah, they have Skelly listed at like a 130 something early time form. What is it? It's a 138, which is obscene for horses like this. But granted, he's very, very fast. But I again, like you said, disco ball, one way to go. It's straight to the lead and as fast as you can go. I agree. I don't see Skelly getting that easy of a lead up front, which is why I ended up going with Close the Game Sugar. Hey, all I'm saying, hey, he gave me a good run, Noah. That's all I'm going to say. At 3-1 in that Bing Crosby, obviously the chosen Vron, just the better athlete. But Close the Game Sugar gave me a run last time. I did pick him as a fish going against the chosen Vron. But Charlie, anything you want to add here, and then we can go. And obviously, any thoughts on Skelly, and then feel free to go into your 3rd place horse.
I mean, look, these are 2 incredible horses. Like, we just got to call it how it is. Close the Game Sugar, 5 firsts, 3 seconds, and 9 starts. And Skelly, 10 wins, right? In 6 seconds out of 17 starts. So it's 2 ultra consistent horses where you just know, we sometimes talk about how horses are, either they're really on or really off. These 2 tend to just always be on. For me, though, the way I see it is Close the Game Sugar just kind of looks like the one who's kind of, with that, insert the meme of look at me, I'm the captain now. It kind of just feels like, it's Close the Game Sugar's time. And I know the chosen Vron on, home turf was able to, help Noah on the West Coast bias people keep their crown and not let the East Coast take it. But now that I think, he's not running against that monster who literally never loses and is running against this field, as good as Skelly is, I just think Close the Game Sugar is one who, they switched to the dirt, has only had 4 starts on the dirt and is continuously getting better. Whereas I kind of just think, as Noah's touched on a little bit, I feel like we just kind of know who Skelly is, and as good of a horse as Skelly has been, I just kind of think that, he's hit his sort of peak and is going to start. Personally, I think he might start to regress a little. I still think the numbers obviously are incredible, and there's no reason he can't be just about anyone in this field. But I just, see 2 horses trending in different directions. Again, I agree with you and Noah. I think it's just because they think Skelly is absurdly fast at time form shows like that. But the way I saw this race was a ton of speed. Close the Game Sugar is going to save ground on the inside, and I just think Irad's going to navigate a perfect trip and end up going, right by this field. But I still think, we'll get to best bets later. I think the odds are spot on. It's a 2-horse field. Going into the 7, happy as a choice. This is one for me where I understand, Hear Me Song, Gulfstream, some of these other horses obviously beat Happy as a choice, who went off as the heavy favorite. But for me, this one's been in really solid form. I think 12-1 is a crazy price. This is one I'd love to, try to mix in some underneath. I just think trip-wise could work out a very nice spot. Obviously has been more forwardly placed than maybe the horse is used to because, you see with the blue numbers, some cold pace. But I think in a race with Skelly and others, you won't have to worry about that. So I could just see this one, picking up some pieces. And if you kind of feel strong enough about one or the other and you play a 12-1 horse underneath, you can get a really solid exacta.
Yeah, I mean, look, 12-1 for sure. Obviously, every other horse, if those two are going to take so much money, every other horse has to be a pretty decent price in this field, including the third choice at 8-1, Noah with Hear Me Song. Last time out, I mean, look, got a very easy trip, sitting right off the speed of Gulfstream Way, who's also in this race, but did it very impressively. Got that 100 buyer and ran behind Gun Pilot, Noah, on Derby Day, which was your first win in all of that weekend until then. Dude, come on. You got to give shit where shit's given, but it was a great pick on your part that day, but ran at 20-1 second behind Gun Pilot while in a pretty decent pace, which is why Gun Pilot ended up winning that race, coming from, about fifth, a couple lengths off of it. But maybe this horse is just a little bit, not maybe a step below, but if I have this horse versus Close the Game Sugar right next to each other, I'm leaning much towards the 2, but the 6 is definitely your most logical choice behind the top 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's disrespectful to put this one and say he's kind of a notch below. I mean, he's probably going to break the $1 million earning barrier in this race. But he's danced a lot of the big dances. You go back to last spring, he won at 12-1 in the Commonwealth at Keeneland, then ran in that Churchill again, lost to Cody's Wish. He's just kind of running some really nice stakes races on the Kentucky circuit. And then, like you said, ran a nice second to Gun Pilot. Wasn't too far off the top 2 in here, Close the Game Sugar and Scally 2 back. And last time was a little bit of an eye-opener. I don't know if he can repeat that. But if you get something close, probably not enough to beat these, but certainly one to play underneath, especially maybe try to get the like a 2-6 exacta if Skelly's just not quite himself or not quite what he used to be.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And we'll move on to the next race. I mean, I think we covered the most contenders. If anyone else wins, I'd be very surprised. But in the Louisville Thoroughbred, it looks like a really nice matchup between Close the Game Sugar and Skelly. I keep trying to make sure. I'm glad I got through that without saying Scylla, because I always get those two mixed up, even though they're not the same gender, they're not the same division, they're nowhere close to each other. But I always get those two mixed up. I'm going 2-10-6. Noah's going 2-10-6 as well, and Charlie's going 2-10-7. Also, shout out Cryptolite, my friend. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it, guys. We'll move on to race number 10, which is it is basically the feature on the card. It's what's to look forward to with these with the best 2-year-old males right now. It's the grade 3 Iroquois Stakes, going a mile, basically the same exact race as the Pocahontas, just for the boys division, and it draws another field of 12. And I'll tell you what, guys, I when I saw these odds, I couldn't believe that the number 10 Jonathan's Way was not the favorite. The favorite goes to the number 5 Owen Almighty for Irad and Brian Lynch at 5-2. Second choice is the aforementioned Jonathan's Way, Joel Rosario for Philip Bauer at 9-2. And third choice is shared between 2 others, number 7 Sandman for Jose Ortiz and Mark Cassie, and Politically Correct for Florent Giroux and Chris Davis, Arlington legend Chris Davis at 6-1. And I'll show our picks right now. Noah, you and I are lockstep, my friend. We're both going 10 Jonathan's Way, who was a very good starter out at first-time starter at Saratoga, which was the horse to watch after that buzz came out of that Saratoga race. But Charlie, you are going with the current morning line favorite, Owen Almighty, coming off a very impressive last race where he was super wide, right on the pace, and ended up going away very nicely at Ellis Park, obviously including that last race. But what did you like most about the number 5 Owen Almighty?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I thought for me, I mean, look, this is another talented open field with a bunch of young, bright talent. I thought it was pretty open, but for me, I really narrowed it down to the 5 and 10. And like you touched on, I kind of assumed the 10 would be the favorite, so I decided to try to be different. I guess I was completely wrong. Maybe it's that pre-Irad tax. But no, this is one for me where I played that race at Ellis, and this one was not the favorite either. Politically Correct, I believe, originally was the favorite, and I think this one or Three Echoes was the second choice. Had this one as a single trying to be different on my ticket, and then late, a ton of money poured in, and this one went from the second to third choice to a massive favorite. And I guess the public knew what they were doing with that late sharp money that we always talk about that gets you, because this one looked very impressive for me at Ellis. I thought the debut was incredible as well. I loved the gallop out I saw. For me, all I saw was a horse who didn't really need the lead by any means first time out. They just weren't going that fast, and the horse looked destined for needing more distance, which is exactly what I saw at Ellis. So I don't think there's any distance concerns for me at all. Is working well. Obviously, again, with Brian Lynch and IRAD, especially with the IRAD tax, I don't think I'm going to get a great price on this one. But for me, just in the 2 starts so far, he hasn't stepped a foot wrong. Again, it's been unfortunately a common theme tonight because, again, I know you touched on it. The morning lines are here now, but I do want to preface that on the PPs we had, we didn't have them. So,
yep.
I'm not thrilled to see a lot of my horses end up being shorter, than I expected, but it's not going to deter me. I think Owen Almighty has looked very impressive, but I'll let you guys talk about the 10 more since it's your top pick. But for me personally, these were the 2 that visually really stood out to me.
Yeah, no, and you can talk through the replay. Jonathan's Way, again, as I mentioned, this was a horse that came out of this race. And Howard and I watched this race back on Horsin around because of how visually impressive this race looked as a maiden, going 6 furlongs for this run. He is the number 6, I believe, in this race. He got bumped all the way back to last. And no, I'll skip to the top of the stretch and let you walk through what you like most about Jonathan's Way. As you see him circling up 4 wide here.
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't break great, and then when you see these young horses, these 2-year-olds, especially first time, make a move like that, definitely eye opening. I mean, he's 6, 7 wide at this point, just basically circling this field. And from what I remember, there were some pretty prestigious purchases in this race. I think I want to say either the 1 or the 1A was a very big purchase price. It's one of the bigger sales. But yeah, Jonathan's Way with the big sweeping move and just continuing to kind of eat up ground. It's not like he's getting tired or anything. Looks like he's still getting going. But yeah, it's Phil Bauer, who was basically unconscious this summer at Saratoga. Yeah. And the talk going into that race was that this was an Ohio bred for Vacoma, who's, it seems like all of his 2-year-olds have gotten in the winner's circle or have run well. Just a combination of all those things. And I would, just like you said, Kyle, I would be very surprised if this was not the favorite.
Yeah, I mean, especially off the buzz of that last race, this is definitely on a lot of people's, bet back type of races. But out of Indian Charlie, an Indian Charlie mare who started from the bottom, was a pretty decent horse. Lots of pretty good pedigree on this one. Looks like he can run for a long while. And as you mentioned, Vacoma, 25% on the dirt, 26% overall so far in 72 starts. A very good start to his sire career after sadly an abbreviated career for Vacoma. But yeah, Jonathan's Way, again, be very surprised if this one wasn't the favorite, but very visually impressive, and in a race where, again, I'll show time form, has it listed as a pretty hot pace again. Jonathan's Way should be able to sit a very good trip. Again, we don't know where he's actually going to sit, right? Is because he broke slow last time, got pinched, and had to take back. But I'd be very surprised if he wasn't type, mid-pack type, and have a very good run, hopefully to the top of the stretch. And I like that Churchill's a longer stretch type, so it should help a horse like Jonathan's Way. But underneath, a lot of us I have the 5 underneath. A couple of us have the 7 Sandman Charlie. I'll let you touch on real quick. And then Noah has the number 11 Misoro for Dale Romans and Lannery, coming off a same type of, trip as the horse we just talked about, Jonathan's Way, did. So, Charlie, talk about Sandman. I have the horse in second. I think the horse is really interesting. Then Noah, go right after him and talk about your 11. Then we'll move on real quick.
Yeah, I was actually kind of torn between the 7 and 8 for who to put underneath. So I know you kind of already touched. So I'll just briefly say for the 7, for me, I just thought it was a really nice effort. Second time out, took a huge step forward. Really looked to relish the extra distance, which was interesting for one who, tried to initially on debut, was sort of asked pretty hard to try to push on the lead, and it didn't work. But then, second time out, Dylan Davis decided to, let the horse sit just off and then went right on by and, cleared that field pretty easily. And then just briefly on Magnitude, this is where I was really torn between which one to go with. Obviously, it was a pretty expensive purchase. Did not run at all well in a hot pace on debut, but then next time, despite setting some pretty nice fractions on the lead, 22-3, 46-1, those are not slow fractions by any means. And this one, which I thought also was important, gets Gaffleone back aboard and absolutely romped going away last time and seemed to have plenty in the tank. So my main concern on Magnitude was, if they send with this much pace, but that's the other one I would look out for. Is I thought that effort last time was very impressive to just romp going away after being on the lead.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And this is one that I didn't really know what to do with because didn't really have that closing punch last time or first time out, but of course it was first time out. Last time showed a much better one, especially going 7 as well. Did get an easy lead. I'm really interested to see the tactics for Magnitude. Winchell, thoroughbred, Steve Asmussen, obviously. Bernardini mare, not this time, should be able to run forever. So Magnitude's another interesting one at a pretty decent price. Last horse we'll talk about, Noah's the 11 Masoro, a horse for CJ Thoroughbreds, Dale Romans, Corey Lannery. Again, visually a really good, really impressive win last time out.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't really know this or follow, Kentucky racing too much, Dale Romans is absolutely terrible first time out. I think he's like 5 or 6%, so that's not really his thing. And not only did this horse win impressively, this horse got played. I mean, this horse was 5-1. Made that big wide move after having not a very good start. And then you look at the race, you got 2 next up winners, True Violence, who came back, improved by 7 points, and then Shan, I don't know how you say that, came back and won a maiden 30, but still improved the buyer by almost 20 points. Funny enough, this is actually a half sibling to Bleecker Street, who was very good, but funny enough, going 2 turns on turf for Chad Brown, which you might see this in this Colts future. But again, still some pretty talented pedigree. And the Not This Times we know are very versatile. You got Cogburn, you got Next, you got basically polar opposites there.
No kidding.
Just the one for CJ Thoroughbreds cost just a light $535,000 at the Keeneland September sale last year. But just one, I think, just because Dale Romans doesn't really crank first out, one that's going to improve and maybe with a better trip, hopefully not going to be as far back as last time.
Yeah, and obviously there looks to be another pretty decent pace scenario. So if he does end up that far back last time, he could definitely close up for at least a little bit of a piece, if not for the win. I'm going 10-7-5. Noah's going 10-11-5, and Charlie's going 5-10-7. And guys, if we can take a step back for a second here before we get into race number 11. Please, if you guys are enjoying the show, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, or if you're watching on X, either live or as a replay, please come over to YouTube and subscribe and hit the like button. It's this best way and easiest way to help our channel, because not only is it 100% free to do, but it's an easy way for us to denote the numbers and see if you guys are enjoying the content, because a lot of people are pointing out, guys, I mean, this is episode 99. Episode 100 is next week, and I'll do a big thank you, of course, when we hit episode 100. But this was an experiment, starting a year and 9 months ago, last January, of course, without Noah, bringing Noah on about halfway through that. But just an absolute fantastic time. Obviously, it's allowed us to do a ton of stuff that we haven't done before. But yeah, I'll give my spiel, of course, for episode 100. But just if you guys are enjoying the show, please go down below the video player, hit the like and subscribe button. We'd greatly appreciate it. The last race, guys, for Churchill Saturday is a very tough maiden special weight, full field of 12, with 1 also eligible for D. Wayne Lucas. It's going 1 mile and a 16th. A 2-year-old maiden going 1 mile and a 16th. This is definitely fall time for these 2-year-olds. I'll tell you that much. And I'll show the morning line favorite right now, as I'll show the Equibase. Morning line favorite is a pretty lukewarm kinetic control. Corey Lannery and Dale Romans at 3-1. And Jim's going to hate me for this one. I'll give you a sneak peek into what my pick's going to be in this race, as I just talked so much shit about him earlier. Second choice is number 5, Tickled Quist for Florent Giroux and Brad Cox. And third choice is to the inside, Homer's Odyssey for Eric Asmussen and his dad, Steve Asmussen, at 9-2. And I kind of joked about it a little bit, but I am going with Dale Romans and Corey Lannery after I talked shit in the chat earlier about them too. And we're all going with Kinetic Control, guys. We're very similar. We need to play either a ticket on Saturday or we need to do something because this is getting crazy. Noah and I are 5 for 5.
I think you might be a little busy with something. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, whatever. What are you gonna do? It's fine. Well, we'll get together before.
Hey, weddings are expensive. Might as well start trying to make some of that money back already. Day one is the perfect day to start making money back.
This is the type of encouragement I need in my life. That's for sure. Either way, Kinetic Control, guys. I'll show the time for him here. They have it the 7 out by himself, Desert Air, although there's going to be a couple right behind him, including the horse we all like in the number 11, Kinetic Control. And Charlie, I'll let you talk first. Kinetic Control, Dale Romans, Medaglia d'Oromera, again, not this time. Talk about very versatile. Ran a great race last time. Sadly, we can't show the replay at 7. Now gets a little bit longer. Again, Medaglia d'Oro, not this time, should hit this horse right between the eyes.
Yeah, I thought, I think the winner is actually running on this card, if I'm not mistaken, from that race that Kinetic Control's coming out of. And I thought it was a super impressive debut. He literally just missed. Again, as you touched on, I think the distance will not be a problem. Is working very impressively, might I add, with that 59 and 4 and, minute and change. So I think he, obviously was well meant. And, we talked all that, you guys are talking all that shit about Dale Romans, but, the horse, even though it didn't take much money, still ran a very solid effort. And honestly, they weren't going slow by any means either. I think, honestly, if he runs back anything like that last effort, I would be very surprised if he doesn't win. I don't know if this is who Howard's pick was, but I saw he was saying something about most likely winner. I completely agree. When I was looking through this sequence, I know best bet wise, we weren't giving out tickets, but I still did play a best bet into this horse because I think this is the most likely winner. I'll let you guys add a little bit anything else before I go into any underlay since we all have the same top pick, but I just thought he had a great debut and didn't really show any reason not to win next time out.
No, I'll go to you. Like I said, breeding wise, this horse should be able to run forever. Kind of, not really hung last time, but ran a very good race against a horse last time out by the name of Authentic Strike, who if we didn't have him picked earlier, but is in one of the stakes races earlier. I think he's in the Iroquois, probably. Would be my guess, running 2-year-old.
So, yeah.
So he's a little bit, I think he's like 10 to 1 or something like that. But in a horse running in Iroquois, now coming back to this spot, it just makes all the sense in the world. Obviously, Howard likes him a lot in this race. So anything you want to add on to Charlie before we start going underneath to go to the 7, who none of us have underneath as well?
No, like I said in the last race, Dale Romans is doo-doo first time. So. But ran the 72 on debut. No discrepancy in speed figures. Got the 97.
Just for the people, Noah. Just for the people. He's 10 for 160 first time out in the last 5 years.
He's doo-doo.
So we're not lying to you people. But anyway, sorry. Continue.
No. It looks like that race came back pretty well. Like Charlie said, with authentic strike. Running in the Iroquois. You do like the fact that he debuted at 7, where a couple of these others maybe were debuting at 5.5 and 6. And there are a couple in here that, did kind of shows some speed last time, but faded. So maybe not necessarily 2-turn horses. So it seems a little impossible to see him not getting a good trip. As long as Lannery can save a little bit of ground, just because it is 2 turns and you got to break from post 11. But other than that, a lot of things to like.
I'm being yelled at in the chat because I'm still on my first drink. Sorry, Steven, my bad. I'll go on to my second one. My apologies. But yeah, I completely agree with you on Kinetic Control. There's nothing more I need to say there. Desert Air is a horse you have in second, Noah. Michael Puig for Martin Garcia, working very well, which is not something you see from Puig too much. Maybe my concern was the distance for this horse, but I can see, if he does end up getting a pretty decent trip on the front end as time form shows. Excuse me, Jesus. It's because I had to chug the beer for Steven Vanderbroek. But if he gets a trip like Timeform says, I can see, this horse could definitely finish in the money for sure.
Yeah. He just looks like one. If there are a couple horses that show some speed, he might just be the speed of the speed. He was really quick last time out, and it looks like he's just a pretty quick horse in general, just because the work 2 back, went 47 2 for 4 furlongs, and then the bullet last time 1:01. I know Puig isn't really his thing. You can see he's not great second time, and he's definitely not great with 2-year-olds. But one that if he gets on the lead, again, the the distance could be a concern, but there's a couple in here that, maybe the distance is more of a concern.
Yeah.
So if you get a horse like this on the front end, you kind of take your chances with a shot at 8-1.
I agree. And, a lot of these horses, these 2-year-olds might not, have the ability to pass. There's a whole ton of questions with these 2-year-olds, of course. So going with a horse like Desert Air at 8-1 is definitely something I wouldn't, completely question you about by any means. There's a horse in here that I really want to talk about. And then Charlie, I'll let you finish out here. Cooper is a horse for Godolphin. IRAD picks up the mount for Bill Mott after running in a maiden special weight and not running that well. But Apiary by Bernardini out of Nyquist. You'll see this 102 buyer. Who is this? The Dirt Sprint. It's a half to Jefferson Street, who is also trained by Bill Mott for Godolphin. This is a half brother to Jefferson Street. Nyquist has started out. Obviously, he's been a very good sire, just starting out his campaign just a couple of years ago. Irad hops aboard this horse, came over to Churchill, worked 7 out of 32, 48-4. Cooper's, I think, a very, very logical horse to come in the second and third to round out your exotics underneath a horse like Kinetic Control. But just wanted to point that out as I think obviously very good breeding. Bill Mott's second time bringing to Churchill, already has a work over the track. A lot of stuff to like about Cooper. Charlie, last 2 horses you want to talk about, the number 4, Handsome Pants. First time starter for Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez. And then a horse that for Brad Cox, the second choice, who no and I don't have anywhere. So what do you like most about these 2?
Yeah, so Handsome Pants is simply just the Charlie Freeman angle of if you see a bunch of horses that have ran before and they didn't do much running, go with the fresh face and just hope the horse debuts and surprises. Look, if I'm getting 10-1, even though, maybe not the biggest fan of McPeak in the past, but the reality is, he's not great with first years, but he's also not awful, and he does get his guy aboard. Horse has been working decently. Obviously looks to, at least with that price, be somewhat well meant. And, some of these others appeared to be, but, didn't take any money on debut and didn't do any running. So just for me, it seems like it's not a terrible idea to try to find a fresh face who I'll get a good price on underneath, especially if I feel like the 11 is such a, strong likelihood of winning. Why not try to get a price? And then with the 5, look, you don't pay $435,000 and send a horse to Brad Cox to do no running. The horse was bet down like that accordingly. I do like also that this is one that, he sent to Ellis when, this time of year he's been kind of sending horses to either Ellis or Indy before Churchill opens up. And to see that this was one sent to Ellis rather than Horseshoe Indy makes me think this is one he actually did believe in. Horse took money, obviously didn't really, do much running, but also didn't, fade by any means or do no running at all. Just kind of chased behind the early leaders and then just sort of stayed there. And I think, is that also someone that's running this card? Strumman, if I'm not mistaken. I think that might be one that's running one of the races in this card earlier. I think is one that's entered at some point, or maybe I'm wrong. I think that one's like a 50-1 horse in one of the stakes races today, or in that card. Anyway, but ran all right. I think second time out could take a step forward, and obviously you see the numbers for Brad Cox, 29% for maiden second start. So this is kind of a thing where we, made fun of some trainers for this not being their thing, but this is one where it is. So, could be live.
And Brad Cox, I trust, is basically the way you go with this horse. This horse did absolutely, very no running at all last time. This would be a very good improvement. $435,000 for Novogratz Racing. So obviously well-meant horse, just a matter of can he put it together on the day. The only other horse I didn't talk about is So Sandy for Cherie DeVoe. Look, I promise I'm not picking these horses just because I'm in the fan club. I actually thought this was another horse out of that Kinetic Control Authentic Strike race. Just got absolutely destroyed early. Had no chance. This horse has been working at Ellis pretty well. Worked at Keeneland, worked at Ellis, now working up here. I just feel like this horse could take another step forward and might be one muddied up based on the trouble last time out. I'm going 11.96. Noah's going 11.79, and Charlie's going 11.45. Guys, let's move into best bets here. Charlie, I'll let you go first. You are going race number 8, a double 13 into 210, and another double in the race 10, 510 into 11, singling Kinetic Control and singling the 13 that we talked about in the Pocahontas. So singling 2 2-year-olds in the number 13 Kimchi Cat.
Yeah, well, Kimchi Cat, I know we weren't saying was necessarily the most likely winner in the card, but again, was one that we all were all over. Was a horse that I was very impressed with last time out, and again, I know it's a big race, and with the favorite being 4-1, in theory, it should be a pretty wide open field. But for me, I just see it as a race where if I'm getting at least 7-2, 3-1 on that horse, because I think personally she'll go off as the favorite. I'd be thrilled. And then, playing into a 2-horse field, in my opinion, I think we all kind of agreed that between Close the Game Sugar and Skelly, it's me one of those two. So if I can get a decent, 3-4-1 horse into one of those two, that'll each probably be at least 8-5. It should be a decent paying double. So that would probably be the double I'll put more on, because then we go into the next one on race 10, where again, we talked about the 10 will likely go off as the favorite. But again, for me with the 5 Owens Almighty, I thought the debut was very impressive, and I love the gallop out, and then, came back to win next time out as well. Obviously, we talked about the 10 being the buzz horse, so I like my chances having one of those two. And then the 11, we talked about with Kinetic Sky being likely the most likely winner in the card. So for me, if I can, have those two likely winners, or most likely winners played into the most likely winner in the sequence, I really feel strong about my doubles here. So I like my spots that I've given out.
I have taught you well, young Padawan. Charlie, good luck with your best bets.
Took 100 shows.
Yep, that's right. 99, almost
99,
there, almost there.
yourself,
99. Noah, going to you next. Again, same type of thing. Noah going double 4-7 into 13, and going an exacta with, I was about to say Jefferson Street, Jonathan's Way into the 5 and 11, which is Owen Almighty, and your horse that you think is interesting, the Dale Rooms Masoro.
Yeah, so starting off with Loved and Shotgun Hottie, who I think if she gets a much better ride than last time, she's going to be pretty tough. But I think Loved is equally as interesting. That's a tongue twister. If she does get things kind of her own way up front, and then going into Kimchi Cat, who she might be okay odds at post time, but it seems like everybody and their mother is going to be betting her in the morning, just because we'll be going to the wedding later. So she might open up at like 4 to 5, but she should drift up. So if that happens, then don't be worried about that. Then in race 10, trying to key the exacta with the 10 Jonathan's Way, who I think is only going to get better off of that effort. And then I'll use the 5 Owen Almighty, who's the morning line favorite, but probably won't be the favorite. And then I'm very interested in that Macero. So hopefully I can get that one in there at a pretty decent price, 15-1 on the line, probably somewhere about that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Noah, good luck with your bets. I'm going 2 ice colds, guys. I'm going race number 7, exacta Shotgun Hottie over Loved. Think it's the most likely exacta, hoping for at least 5-6-1 there. Again, just think Shotgun. I think Loved is going to have it pretty easy on the front end. Think she's really talented. However, I think Shotgun Hottie might just be a class above the rest of the field. So 7 over 4 for me in race number 7, and a double in race number 9, going ice cold 2 over 10. That is, of course, the number 2 Close the Game Sugar over Skelly in that race, and singling the number 10 Jonathan's Way, the boss horse coming out of Saratoga. Maybe late pick 3, 2-10 over 11 with kinetic control. Only time will tell. Have to put that in, of course, at 10 a.m. before I end up getting dressed for the wedding. But a lot of wedding talk in the chat, guys. Really warms my heart, and I'm really excited that all you guys are coming to share the the best day of my life with me and Emma. So I greatly appreciate all you guys coming. A lot of nice plays in the chat. Thank you guys all so much for joining. Greatly appreciate it. As this concludes Churchill, but of course it's not a Bettin N Boozin on Wednesday show without my great friend from Hawthorne Racecourse joining. Of course, director of racing at Hawthorne Racecourse, the great Jim Miller. Jim, what's going on, my friend?
I'm not going to be at the wedding, so I can put in the wagers for you guys as you get closer to post time if you want.
We got a bookie, people. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
But either way, welcome in, Jim. Noah, Charlie, of course, you guys are welcome to drop. Thank you guys for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. And I will I'll see you guys either Friday or Saturday.
Yep. Looking forward to show 100 and a great wedding this weekend. See you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right, Jim. So I don't know how it's been down there, but we've had pretty good weather again up here. So there's 3 turf races, because race 1 is also a turf race carded for Thursday. And judging by that reaction, they should stay pretty good on the turf. And especially with race 1 being a turf race with a carryover going into the early pick 5, which does it start in race number 1, I believe, right? Because the pick 4 starts in race number 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, early pick 5 carryover, $3,753 starting in race 1, early pick 4, race 2, and then race 5 starts the late pick 5 along with the late pick 4. But we haven't had a drop of rain in weeks, so it's going to be fast and firm. It looks like it's going to be beautiful the next 2 weeks. So we'll definitely be on the turf, plan for great racing conditions and just good racing overall.
gotta hope for that. Knock on wood, everything, of course, for Saturday. But Matt Miller says, Jim, the bet runner, another title to add to the long list of titles you got going on over there, Jim. That's for
I was
damn
at the
sure.
State Fairgrounds today. We did a makeup of the championship day card that was canceled a couple of weeks ago. So I was down conducting 15 harness races as the paddock judge today. So
Jeez.
I have been busy. It's been one of those days.
Yep, it's like I said, and then it's just what Jim does, man. He walks the turf course, he goes down to Springfield for a day, and then comes all the way back up. It's what Jim does. Jim's the man of many titles, is what, of course,
I was
we
actually
like to
doing
joke
the
about.
Sunday morning line while I was listening to your guys' best bets.
That's what I'm talking about. Either way, Jim, I'm going to show the picks. We're going to go through races 5, 8, and 9 for you guys tonight, which includes one of those turf races, but two very competitive claiming fields on the dirt as well. And I'll bring up the picks right now, Jim. You'll see them scroll. Of course, on the bottom side of the screen, I'm bringing up the entries for Hawthorne tomorrow as we speak. Just give me 1 second. I had them up and Google Chrome crashed on me, so I just need 1 second. Race number 5 is a claiming 12-5 going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Again, very competitive field of 8, especially denoted by your morning line, as you have the number 4, Princess Tenko, the morning line favorite at 3-1, followed by the number 2, Lucy Jane at 4-1 for Revis and Sentinel, followed by third choice, Cocktail Cutie for Wales and Manly at 9-2. And you are going with that aforementioned morning line favorite, Princess Tenko, but with a pretty nice price, with some two pretty nice prices underneath.
Yeah, and the reason that I wanted to kind of start out with this race is this was actually the horse that I felt the best about on the card, just on the entire card tomorrow. Only for the fact that when you look at this field, you have a lot of horses that are very similar when you look at speed figures, but the class that Princess Tenko has been facing has been much better than a lot of the others in this field. And this was a horse that was claimed for just $8,000 at Tampa earlier on in the year. But Joel Campbell's done a nice job with the horse, as you've seen kind of work their way up the ladder a little bit, faced allowance runners, and has run competitively against the allowance company in those last couple of starts. Now you're getting near the end of the meet, so now it's one of those where you drop back down to the level where, hey, you know what, if you get claimed, you're still making more money than what you claimed the horse for. You've made some money for the purse, and you're sitting at the ability to possibly win this race and get out on the horse. But also you just get the right pace set up. There's a good amount of pace in here. You should have a horse that's going to come from out of it. You pick up the meets leading jock in Orlando Mojica. And again, because the speed figures of the field are going to be a lot closer because of that last race, I think you're probably going to get that 3-1 as well.
Yeah, and speaking of that, how close is that jockey race? I know David Cohen's won a lot as well. We're nearing in the final month here at Hawthorne, so should be a pretty good race going down the line. No?
It should be. Mojica's been able to build a little gap just because Cohen started a little bit later in the meet, but those are the two guys that have really just kind of had the really strong meets, and they've been riding for a lot of the best barns and having some of their picks. The guy that's had a really good meet has probably been Julio Felix, and he's the guy that has a lot of his regulars that he rides for, but he's been riding the turf course very well throughout the course of the meet. So he's the guy that's definitely worth looking to. And then just over the last few weeks, the bug girl Rachel Slavinsky's ridden very, very well. And then Adamar Santos came about halfway into the meet. He was riding down to Tampa during the winter, kind of looking for a spot to land over the course of the summer, and Hawthorne's where he landed. And it's worked out well for him. But now it's going to work out where he's able to ride the end of the meet, then get ready to go back to Tampa for the winter. So he's been picking up a lot more business as well. But it really does come down to Mojica and Cohen.
Yeah, and talk about a mainstay in Illinois racing, Mr. Illinois racing himself, and Julio Felix. But Elotrope is a horse you have in second, Jim. This is what you said. Maybe there's a decent amount of pace in this one, but this is one that has been able to hold on the lead. So maybe one of those that maybe speed of the speed type of horses in this one.
Yeah, and you look that last out. I mean, that 10 claimer was probably much tougher than a $10,000 field. Doc 7 has beaten better horses. Be My Bestie's a horse that broke its maiden against maiden allowance company. It was competitive against allowance runners. So that was a tough race on the grass. The race 2 back, probably much more along the lines of what you're going to face here. Frosted Eclair has been a pretty solid racehorse there. But what you're getting here is you're getting back to that legit dirt field, not these turf horses that are coming off the grass and running on the dirt. You're back to a field of horses that want to be on the dirt, but it should be a stalking trip, should be able to run on late. And I think Allotrope's a horse that could contend much of the way.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you by any means. The only horse we'll talk about, Jim, is your third choice. Love You Like Crazy, a horse coming up from FanDuel, and really a mainstay down there, at least by the end of last year. Did have a race at Fairgrounds, didn't run too well. Definitely a little more suited, I think, for a track like FanDuel. But getting that Illinois bump to that 18-8 claiming price for Elias Lopez, who definitely knows how to win down here.
And you look at the record at Hawthorne for this horse, 6 of 8 on the board over the racetrack for Love You Like Crazy. It was just one of those where it's a function of the timing. When we ended last year, they were looking for somewhere to go. And at that point, it was only FanDuel. They wanted to get one race in New Orleans before going back to FanDuel. But the horse, I'm surprised, actually hasn't popped up sooner this meet at Hawthorne, because the horse does definitely fit over the racetrack. And I just think because of that, this is a horse that maybe could pop at a little bit of a price.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you by any means. One comment I want to bring up, Jim, hold on before we move on. Tim Sylvette says, too fast, best bets. Tim, you can always pause. Even though this is a live stream on YouTube, you can always pause or go ahead and watch a replay after this show concludes in about 10-15 minutes or so. You can always pause, or you can click you can if you're on mobile, you can double tap the left side of the screen and go back to best bets and pause and screenshot and do whatever you need to do, of course. Or if you're watching this as a replay, you can go you can look at our best bets and go back to our explanation of the race and see, how we feel about the race. So apologize that you thought it was too fast, but of course we're trying to speed the show along. But again, I haven't seen your name before. Graciously appreciate you coming on the show and watching again this experiment show that's been around for 99 episodes, Jim. It's getting crazy.
It's no longer an experiment.
It's true. No kidding.
It's a mainstay now.
And I appreciate that. And, all the boys do. It's been an absolutely fantastic ride. That's for sure. Jim, we'll move on to race number 8, which is the next one we'll cover. Another 20,000 claimer, but this one going long on the turf. And I'll bring up the morning lines right now. Field of 9 with a couple of these that I even remember. I love that when I can recognize these Illinois horses from running so long ago. Another very competitive race that you have listed on the morning line. Another 3-1 favorite in the aforementioned Julio Felix, who's riding super well on the turf. The number 4 Sailing Solo for Louis Roussel at 3-1. Second choice, the Chris Block runner Battle Scars with Orlando Mojica aboard at 7-2, and the Illinois bred Silver Quarters. And I think it's Tim Wales, if I'm not mistaken correctly.
Travis Wales,
because he rides down at St. Louis for Steve Manley at 4-1, and that is the horse you're going with in this one.
Yeah, and looking at this field, this is a race that's probably better than a $20,000 claimer. The 2 Chris Block horses, they're allowance type of horses that are actually dropping in for a tag because you're getting near the end of the meet. Silver Quarters, look at the last 2 races. They're third place efforts behind a greatest stakes place horse and another mystery, and they were legitimate races for Silver Quarters. I mean, this is a horse that came running on late in each of those last 2 starts, both of them on the turf. Now you come in for this race and you're in for the tag. The horse runs for 30,000 being an Illinois bred, but I like the move because you're an 8-year-old horse nearing the end of your 8-year-old season. You're still running well. If someone wants to jump in for 30,000 and take you, I mean, all the more power to them, because you might win this race. You're going to get the purse plus the Illinois bonus plus the claim. And if they don't, you're in a spot where you definitely figure. But the one thing about Silver Quarters is you look at those last 2 races, there was really no pace on in either of those stakes. They got the half and 49 in each of those races, 3 quarters, 114 and 3. And this horse was still able to make up some ground late. Now you look at this field, there's a lot more pace. It's going to be a firm turf. You're going to have someone to run at in here. And Travis Wales is a guy that rode the horse very well in that last out. And you're not facing another mystery. You're not facing quite the caliber of racehorse here, but you're still going to get the price. And I think that's kind of the key for Silver Quarters. He's a good, legit, hard-knocking racehorse. He's been solid on the turf. I just think if he runs back to either of those last 2 races, he's going to be right there, and I think you get that 4-1.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that, you talked about them going 49 and 3, 49 flat, those last 2, with another mystery in there. That just shows you how much better another mystery is, running in those Illinois state bred stakes, where obviously Chris Block loves to win those, but he's probably a little bit better caliber horse than a lot of those in there, because another mystery likes to come from way out of it, from the clouds is what we used to say. So maybe back-to-back thirds in those stakes placings might seem a little bit rough, but again, you talk about those cold paces and facing horses like that, like another mystery. I think that's a very good point. I completely agree with you with Silver Quarters, especially if he runs back to those 2, Jim.
Yeah, and the horses on either side of him are going to take some money. The 4-horse Sailing Solo, another old, hard-knocking horse. But look at all the turf numbers. They're all very legitimate, very solid turf races. But the one thing about this horse, you see all the gaps throughout the course of his racing career. He's just kind of winding down. He's a horse that they've kind of had to protect throughout the course of his career, because think about it. He's a 9-year-old and he's only making his 25th lifetime start. Now he's earned $300,000 throughout the course of his career, but he's had just one start this year. So it's been a whole lot of spacing. Everything has to be right. Everything has to work out right. And honestly, in that last out, he didn't run a bad race by any means, but he was in full control of that race and still got caught nearing the wire. Here, he's probably going to have a little bit more pace pressure. He is game. He'll battle, but I think it's just going to be another one of those where he kind of wears down inside that final 16th. And I think some of the others come running at him late.
It's one of those ones that, Jim, where we talk about horse takes money 2 to 5 nonetheless, and has a perfect trip about exactly what you think and still can't get home. Now he's going to be favored again in a race that's almost completely different in complexion. And that's one where you maybe can look for a horse like Silver Quarters that's going to be a little bit of an outside price in this one.
Yeah, and you're going to have some long shots that are going out there and pushing a horse like Sailing Solo. And even though he's classy, he'll probably dig in and put those horses away. But then when some of these other older classy type of race horses come running at him, may make things a little bit tougher. But Silver Quarters is one of those, and this horse right here is one of the others. Again, it's Chris Block on the turf, consistent numbers. The Battle Scars, I mean, look at the last, all right? He was even money in an open allowance, and he won the race easily. And now he's also dropping in for 20,000. So that's the thing. It's nearing the end of the meet. It's a 6-year-old horse. If they claim the horse, they claim the horse. But again, Chris Block's probably thinking, okay, I haven't run this horse since the end of May. Is someone really going to jump in at this point and try to go after taking this horse as a 6-year-old who, again, is kind of lightly raced? He's only made 20 starts on his career. So I think I don't know if they're necessarily trying to slip one by. It may be where the horse belongs. But again, there may be a reason why the horse has been away for some time as well.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And again, you're thinking this should be a good horse, again, maybe to throw an exacta if you like Silver Quarters or something like that. But I think no matter where you look, Jim, this is a super competitive field. You're going to get a price no matter where you look, even though Sailing Solo might, maybe he won't be. Maybe this horse, Battle Scars, will end up being the favorite because of that reason you said, Jim. Coming from open allowance, one very easily now drops to this level, even though the horse hasn't been seen in almost 3.5 months. This is a horse that you could definitely see. There's so many different horses you can see end up being favored here.
And there's no even money standout in this race. That's the cool thing about it. At this type of race, at this type of the time of the year, you get some legitimate racehorses meeting up. And it's the reason you get a good competitive field.
Yep, and it's the beauty of it, man. Especially when you're nearing the end of the season, you're trying to get turf no matter where you can go. Obviously, Churchill, as we mentioned before, is not running turf in their meet this year, so you got to, in this Midwest kind of area, you got to look where the turf is, and Hawthorne, this Hawthorne 20Ks running along on the turf might be your best bet.
Right, and that's one of the things, and you're going to see as the meet kind of winds down, we're going to have the ability to use the turf more because there's nothing really to save it for over the course of the last month. You got a couple of stakes coming up, but after that, you might see these cards where there's 5 turf races on a day, and it's going to be a lot of horses trying to get that last start into the meet, and it's a lot of horses too that kind of their destination after here is either Tampa or maybe Fairgrounds. Well, there's a little break until they get to Tampa or Fairgrounds. So they may run hard now and then give themselves kind of a month or 6 weeks off. Same with those horses going to Oakland. They're not starting up till December. So you'll see these horses try to get a couple more starts in before the end of the meet and then kind of take their little break.
I was going to say, especially, obviously Hawthorne's very betting friendly. With these turf races, I wouldn't be surprised if you see full fields basically till the rest of the meet for horses trying to get at least 1 or 2 more starts in, as you said, Jim, going into the end of the year at this turf.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, too. I mean, we're getting there a month left of the meet. The rail goes all the way back in, so it'll be 12 horse fields from here on out.
Beautiful. That's the music to every bettor's ears, Jim, especially, of course, with that low takeout, as we always talk about. We'll move on to race number 9, Jim's last race we'll talk about today. It's a claiming 5,000 going to mile 70 on the dirt. Draws a field of 8, but again, another pretty competitive field of 8 in here, headed by Galib's Ranger, the Illinois bred for Travis Wales and Scott Becker. Whenever you see Galib's, it's going to be Scott Becker, most likely Willem Sturritz. Before I look at the PPs, would be my guess. Second choice, all the way to the outside is where you look for Patty Gal, for Chris Amy and Armando Hernandez. Third choice, back to the inside for the number 3, Quilting Party, another Illinois bred for Franklin Reyes and Vance Childers at 9-2. Jim, you're going with the morning light favorite, Galib's Ranger. But again, another one, Patty Gal, but you also got Emmett Yaz, who's also going to be a pretty decent price in here underneath.
Yeah. And Emmett Yaz is a horse that scratched out of the Sunday card for this spot. So one thing, it's a little bit more intent there. The reason I like Galib's Ranger and the reason I wanted to point this racehorse out is that Scott Becker hasn't run nearly the amount of horses that he normally does throughout the course of a Hawthorne meet this year. As you see, 25 starters on the meet. But when he comes to win. He's winning at a 32% rate. He's 15 of 25 on the board. And this is a card where he didn't want to just bring one horse. He's got 3 or 4 in on the card. So it's one of those where you get one entered. And it's like, okay, I'm going to kind of stack him up and make my van ride really worthwhile for coming up. So this is a horse that comes in with intent as well. It's your last race of the day. You've been running against a little bit better company. You see Galib's Honor, a horse that's a solid racehorse who he faced 2 back in the optional 10. Commissioner Gulch is another horse that's been a solid racehorse who we faced in the last out. And you're back in against company where you really kind of fit. And this is the thing where you've made only 4 starts on the year and haven't shown a whole lot. You're kind of looking for a little bit of a confidence boost more than anything else. And I think that's the thing that she's going to show you in this spot. And then it's maybe kind of works as a boost for her coming out of this race, then going to either another start at Hawthorne before the end of the meet or down at Fairmount Park as their race until the 1st of November. So you maybe get that confidence boost, try to do string together a few victories. And this is one of those that Scott Becker's probably not going to be bringing to Oaklawn Park when he goes down there at December. Yeah. So maybe if you dump the horse, then that's fine. You're in for the 7,500 being an Illinois bred. But I think there is some intent here for the fact that he's bringing a van full of horses, and you see the percentage he's been racing at this meet.
Yeah, and the one thing I thought very interesting, obviously Victor Santiago is always Scott Becker's guy. He is at Hawthorne for this weekend. I'm surprised he goes with Travis Wales here. Obviously, he was a very good rider down, obviously 21%. You could see it for 21, 24, usually rides down at that aforementioned Fairmount Park. Very interesting for me, who always sees Scott Becker and Santiago team up for Travis Wales up aboard here.
And it's one of those, it's just been recent that Wales has kind of become that rider for Scott Becker. And it's really, you see in the percentage right there, it's changed. This is a guy that you go from maybe being an 8 or 10% rider to all of a sudden you're a 21% rider, but some of that comes with the stock. And when you're down at Fairmount Park, Scott Becker has the best stock down there. So now the fact that he's thought enough to, say, let's come up here and try to win some races at Hawthorne too. You're not coming up and making that 4.5-hour drive to just try to go and get some jock mounts. You're trying to go up there and get some purses. So I think there is a whole lot of intent behind this racehorse in this spot. If you get 5-2, that's fine. Take a $7 winner and be happy on your way out the door.
Hey, winners are always good in the last race,
right.
Jim. Everyone will tell you that. Patty Gal's a horse you have in second. It is the second choice. But again, Armando Hernandez has been awesome. Chris Amy's been as good as he always is. But he takes over after, a ride by Blanche that, maybe got too caught up in a hot pace here, although she will want toward the lead. Armando Hernandez, second time out, training-wise, drop back down out of that optional claiming into the claiming 5. Should have everything she needs here to have a good run at it.
Yeah, this is one that I'm a little curious about for the fact that Armando Hernandez has recently taken over training some of these horses for John Hanna Enterprises. Hanna was claiming a lot early on in the meet with Gerald Butler, has transitioned over to Armando, and Armando runs primarily at Hawthorne, but he's taken horses down to Fairmount Park and been winning races down there too. So some sort of relationship is built there, and now it's just getting that trust. But when you have a new owner, you want to impress a new owner too, and you want to be in spots where you can win races, and that you see Armando winning at a 21% clip. But there's a reason behind where he's kind of spotting these horses too, because you want to always keep these new owners and you want to keep them happy in that. So again, I think there's intent behind this racehorse here. 7-2, not too bad in here, but if you get back to those starts 2 or 3 back, this horse is right in the mix.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I really like Armando's work. I think he does a great job.
He's a very good trainer.
We had actually just had one race with him at Kentucky Downs today, and he ran a pretty decent 5th first time out for only a $20,000 racehorse running down to Kentucky Downs and running 5th and $100,000 purse. That's not exactly the worst thing. So yeah, Armando does a great job. Emitas was the last horse you have, Jim. Ralph Martinez, who again was another one that's been claiming. He claimed this one for himself. Gets Mojica aboard, which I think is a very interesting concept here. Is 0 for 10 at Hawthorne, but has 7 out of 10 in the money.
Well, and it's interesting too. Ralph Martinez, again, a guy that's stable down at Fairmount Park, but you look, 30 starts at Hawthorne, 15 of 30 on the board. So he's another one. He's not going to take the van ride thinking that he's just coming to run a racehorse for no reason. And like I mentioned, this horse scratched from a spot that was probably a little bit tougher on Sunday for this spot tomorrow. 2 turns is definitely the route you want to go. They tried to sprint in that last out. That was just a tougher race there that opened 75. You're back in for the condition 5. You see where the horse ran in that start 2 back. And again, you pick up the meets leading jock in Orlando Mojica. So he's going to give you a good trip. A little bit of versatility in here too. And that's the one thing where I think Hermitage is a horse that can probably rate close much of the way, contend much of the way, even if you don't win and you end up underneath. And that's what the horse has done a lot of this year. 6 of 8 on the board. It may be worth it at 6-1 to hook up in your gimmicks underneath in second or third.
Exactly what I was going to say. You know, we're talking about a race where, you know, you have plenty of force. I think this is like the 4th or 5th choice you have on the morning line here at 6-1. So even though that price might be a little lower, you're still going to get a pretty decent value underneath with this horse, especially if you have, you know, first or second choice thrown out of your exactas or trifectas. You can definitely increase your value here in a wide open race.
Yeah, and Orlando Mojica is very good about riding through the wire. He's going to give you your effort. Yeah. He's not going to wrap up when you're second or third. He's going to try to get you every little piece that he can. And Ralph Martinez has a lot of racehorses, and he has a lot of good racehorses. So a guy like Orlando Mojica definitely wants to get a little taste of that business as well, and I think it's a good pickup here.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jim. Jim, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. Of course, check out Hawthorne tomorrow and Sunday with the nationwide lowest win play show takeout at 12%. Pick 5 carryover starting tomorrow in race number 1, $3,300 and some change. I believe $3,397, I believe is what you said. If my memory is not terrible and serves me right, which again, that's not usually a good bet, but as much as good bets, it is Bettin Hawthorne. But either way, guys, thank you guys all tuning in for episode 99 of Bettin N Boozin, covering Iroquois Stakes Day at Churchill Downs and, of course, Hawthorne Racecourse Thursday with the Director of Racing, Jim Miller. And for the aforementioned Jim Miller, and for my co-hosts, Noah Maher and Charlie Freeman, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 99 of Bettin N Boozin on the HHH Racing Podcast. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.